Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Diane, Arnold joining us here again from the Family Collective, helping those all over. And I just got to point out, if you're on the Zoomcast, you're going to see a beautiful Diane. Not that she's not beautiful normally, but that she got some extra light on her. Where are you, Diane?
I'm actually at the lake. It's pretty amazing. I wish I could invite all of you.
Well, beautiful. But you're normally from South Carolina, correct?
Yes.
And today you're in beautiful Minnesota.
Minnesota,
beautiful mountains. Yes. Did my camera just shut off? Yes,
yeah.
I was touching something else. Sorry about that. So let's get started. For those new time listeners, let's introduce yourself and, of course, talk a little about what the Family Collective is and what the Family Collective does.
Thank you. Yes, we're representing the Family Collective, and it is an organization, a nonprofit organization that basically is totally focused on helping restore, repair, understand families, marriages, and community. And I know that's a huge picture, and it's called a collective because we have a part of it, as you know, myself and my family, which is pretty amazing, helps run it. But there are other organizations that have come up alongside with their resources, you know, to put their expertise into it. So we're pretty excited about that. It continues to grow. And I just love that people want to help restoration with the family in this season. So that's what we're after.
Perfect. And the website where we can find you?
Thefamilycollective.co. My beautiful millennial children put CO instead of com. So it just...
I know, we talked about that. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Creative. They're creative.
It is. Well, all the other ones were taken. The coms, the nets, the biz, the TVs. It's just, I
don't even know if it was. I just think they liked it.
Well, we had a great conversation last time. Would you mind recapping a little bit of what we spoke about, and we'll continue the fear factor in a sense?
Yep. We're talking about freedom from fear. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's kind of easier said than done. But last week we talked about the difference between fear and anxiety. So a clear, imminent danger in your life versus your brain or your emotions anticipating a danger that's really not there, or at least not there yet. Yep. And then we talked about the two different brain responses to anxiety. You know, we have that cortex, or the cognitive brain, that thinking part, and then we have the emotional. And both of those, you know, have fear brain responses to what's going on in our lives. And then today we were going to hit what are some things we can do about that? And how can we help you with that if that's a place that you're stuck? And clearly in 20 minutes, we can't solve all of your problems. So we did want to remember to, if any of this triggers you to the response that you get, you know, can't function at your work or at your home, 1-800-273-TALK. It's not our website, but it is a helpline that you can go to immediately and get some help. Especially they can reach out to the state that you're in at this point. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us of that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you ready to talk about the brains?
Ready to do
it. And Jill's like, no, not today.
Yes, I'm here. I'm better. Come on. We're going to get through this.
Okay, it's okay. No, you know what? Jill, everybody gets triggered by this. So that's why we want to talk about it. You know, it's kind of that under the cover thing that people aren't talking about. We're living at this low level of fear, you know, and so if I'm normally down here and something triggers me, you know, I come back. But if I'm living up here partway anyway, and then something triggers me, you know, the lid comes off. So, you know, we've got unfortunately a lot of culture right now in that place. So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
So let's start with that emotional side of our brain. Because I think that's the place where most of what's going on needs to kind of settle. So a few of the things, I'm trying to move to that quickly, that are, I guess, the most important thing that I want to talk about with that one is how that amygdala that's where this begins, so those thinking based, which a lot of us try to do, these thinking based, think better, think differently, whatever it is, the logic reasoning, they don't always help reduce anxiety if it's if it's coming from this more emotional side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I would tell you, if you're not sure, you're out there listening and you're not sure, you'll know if you try some of these strategies, which one is stronger in you. Okay. So as simple as it sounds, we talk about those deep breathing exercises. Have you ever heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, they literally slow down your heart rate, your blood pressure, your body temperature. And, they are a little bit of a cure-all for this emotional triggering that's happening. So if you've never done that and you've never heard that, it's the kind of situation where you lie down, you close your eyes, you take a moment to notice the sensations in your body, particularly where your body's holding tension. And then we take several deep cleansing breaths. I'm having trouble talking today. Breaths. And I know I'm trying to hurry. I think that's what the deal is.
Okay.
And, we need to do that not from that short, like, nose mouth area, where that's exactly where we go when we panic. That if you think about this, that right? Remember the brown paper bag thing, right? So, we're trying to go back down into that diaphragm area and take those deep breaths. And if you've had acting classes probably, or if you've had singing classes, this is what they're training you to do. And it is probably the greatest thing you can do to help slow that emotional part down, because you are making the body, respond to, more peace and rest than the panic that's happening in you. Right. So I often tell people, if you're lying down, you're noticing what's happening, stick a book or something on that diaphragm area. So you'll know when it goes out or goes back in, because if you're breathing wrong, when the opposite of like when my lungs fill, my diaphragm should expand, right? And if you're breathing wrong, the opposite is probably happening. So you just have to notice that when you take a deep cleansing breath in, that diaphragm area should expand. And then it should contract, when we're releasing it. Now, I say, do that a handful of times until you can feel that release, in your body, and you will feel it. You will feel yourself start to calm down as you do that. And I would add, to be perfectly honest, when you're taking a cleansing breath in, remind yourself of something you want to take in. If you're a faith-based person and, your scripture is a huge thing to you, take that in. And then when you exhale, remind yourself of what you're trying to get rid of, whether it's a thought, whether it's a feeling, and it actually gives your thinking brain something to do while your body's actually working on the emotional part. Does that make sense? I said it really fast. Questions on that?
Got it. You're good. You're thorough.
Okay. Okay.
Aren't you? You are.
I know. I'm just like, if you're listening to this and you're in the car, I'm like, okay, don't panic, pull over, but just go back and listen to it just to remember, The other great thing you can do is muscle relaxation. And I always picture this, get into your bed before you're going to sleep and, get your lavender and get your soft music. And then actually notice where you're holding tension.
Yeah.
So if you go from body part to body part, start with your head or your eyes, and you expand and contract the areas and your jaw, your mouth, your neck, your shoulders, and you keep working yourself down your body, you'll quickly figure out where you're holding stress and tension. And as you contract and hold on to this, to the tightness and release it, if you go through that exercise for each muscle group, you will start to feel your body relax, right? And that's what we're after, is for that emotional part. And you could probably go online and look up progressive muscle relaxation and just download the sheet if you're not sure how to kind of work yourself through your entire body. But do make sure that you're not trying to do it when you're on the subway or something like that. Do it in a place where you can be a little relaxed, because literally this will relax you. It'll slow yourself down, right?
True.
A third and a very positive thing, and I know they say this over and over again, but exercise. Go for a walk. Go to your class, do your, your relaxation class, but literally, running on the treadmill for 30 minutes has research on it that's saying that it will go after that right frontal lobe area and create a more positive mood, right? And more positive feelings, of course, is going to help you reduce anxiety. They're opposite each other. So it's, a huge factor in trying to slow down the right side of the brain. And then the next thing I would say is sleep. You gotta, every one of us, thinks it's okay to go at 5 hours, and it's not. We need to give our body's neurons a chance to shut down and repair themselves. And it's a huge part of how we were built and how we repair and restore. So if you're struggling with sleep, get to somebody and figure out a sleep study and or something that can help you sleep better. Like I said, some of these exercises done before you sleep will help you sleep better. Keeping this blue light off of you before you go to bed.
What does the blue light do to us?
Well,
what is it doing to our heads, our minds?
It's stimulating us.
Okay.
And that includes the TV, any of the screens. They say to keep it off and away like at least an hour before you try to go to bed, because it's doing the opposite. It's not helping you slow your body down to get rest. It's actually, activating the neurons. So keep that away. And then the other thing that we often use as therapists for the right-hand side is exposure therapy. And I don't recommend that you do exposure therapy by yourself. I would say on that, plane, talk to a therapist. But that's where, we talked about this, you can't go over bridges, or, there are things that are fearful in your life that are causing you to not have a normal life.
True.
Right? And that are stopping you from just living the daily life. And so well, let's just take me, there was a period in my life where I did not like getting on planes. We flew through a hurricane going to Florida one time, and I'm serious that plane dropped. And then the next time we were trying to go on vacation, I was like, we should drive there.
Maybe we should, yes.
We should drive there, and so it literally took me having to keep getting on a plane time and time again. But the point behind exposure therapy is not to grit and bear it, to grit and bear the anxiety. It's actually to deal with it in the process of it. And so that's why I would say, if that is a response that you think would work well for you, especially if you have specific fears, okay, then I would reach out to a therapist for that.
Yeah.
All right.
True.
Okay. So a whole list of things that we can do, for that emotion, the side of fear. Let's talk about the cognitive, the more cognitive or cortex side. All right. So people who tend to struggle with this side of the brain kind of display the following actions. And I'm going to give you a list, and we're probably all on that, they're probably people, or they're a little more perfectionist. They have
True.
some high, probably unrealistic goals. They can tend to give up on tasks if they feel they can't be the best or win. They view mistakes as failures and try to hide from the lessons learned in those. They can spend an excessive amount of time trying to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like taking risks
Wow.
unless I
Why?
know,
Risk. Come on. Come on.
unless they know that they'll be perfect, right?
Yeah.
They're overly concerned with what other people think about themselves. And I'm only saying this list not for you to go, oh my gosh, I feel critical about myself. I'm saying, okay, that's me. I'm falling into that category, right? These people don't usually handle criticism or feedback well. And they can apply their unrealistic standards to coworkers, friends, and family.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find yourself in that list, go, okay, here I may be when I have anxiety, I may have some thinking or cortex related anxiety.
True.
So
Okay.
here's some things we can do with that. First, recognize it. And I know that sounds weird, but remember that it's only a feeling, even though it seems really real. If the symptoms feel like you're having a heart attack, or you're going to lose control, or you're going crazy, it'll only worsen,
True.
if you don't face the fact, this is what's happening to me. I'm just keep trying to shove it down.
Got it.
Recognizing that you're most likely not in imminent danger and not buying into the misinterpretation of what's happening will help you recover more quickly. So I'm going to name, I am unrealistically panicking right now. I need to do something about it. All right. Rather than trying to push it away, which guilty, raise your hand if you're guilty. We all are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to, I'm
Oh,
going to say, oh, okay, this isn't right. Let's call it, right? One of the main things I can do is try to distract myself. And I know that sounds like I'm not facing it, but I'm actually, dealing with the neurons in my head here. So I'm not going to go down this path where it heads right to the same old panic symptoms I know. I'm going to try to hang a right or a left here. I'm going to try to help my neurons build a different pathway.
okay.
All right. Is that making sense? Or
It
to like,
does. No.
okay. All right. So because the cortex can make the fear worse by focusing on the symptoms, try to think about anything other than the panicking. All right. So the last time we were together, I was saying, this may or may not have happened to you, but, recently happened to me. You're sitting there waiting for a medical test.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And in that moment, I could think, okay, I'm going to die. Or this is what I'd like my funeral to be like. And, my kids should have been nicer to me. And, whatever it is that you're thinking that's not happening, the situation. Or, while I'm sitting there, I could talk to the person next to me and ask them about their life. I could get on my phone and play a game. I could, read a book. I could do anything other than letting those anxious thoughts keep doing the same pathway in my brain. And I often describe this like, if there's a neurologist listening to this, I'm just going to say I'm sorry, because this is like all their wonderful years of research making it sound too simplistic. But it's like I have this trigger and my brain is used to going down this neural pathway, and it's almost like a ditch. Like you see a ditch, the water's going to run down that ditch. And unfortunately, that ditch is not going away because I've dug it and I've built it. It's a thing. But I can dig a new ditch.
Yeah.
I can take that
Rechannel,
trigger,
repath, yep.
repath, exactly. And so I'm going to like I said, dig a ditch that hangs a right or dig a ditch that hangs a left. And I need to help train my brain when I'm doing the cortex type anxiety stuff, is train it to head in those directions instead of some of the directions where I go to create more panic. Right? I need those ditches to be deeper and more realistic, or not realistic, but deeper and more accessible to me than the ones that cause me anxiety. Right? So just remember, when you're doing this, anxiety isn't always caused by what's actually happening in our lives. Because of the cortex ability to anticipate, it will most likely be about things that are never going to happen. Right?
True.
Right?
The fear
So,
of, yeah.
Right. Okay. And then we need to challenge that behavior. In order to make that new neurological pathway, I need to challenge that behavior. Right? So, coping thoughts. I will pass. I can be anxious, angry, sad, and still deal with this. I have done this before. I can do it again. This feels bad. It's a normal reaction that my body's doing. It will pass. These are feelings that will go away. This won't last forever. I'm just making some up in my head. I don't need to rush. I can take things slowly. This doesn't need to be perfect. I've survived this before. I've survived worse. I can survive it again. I'm going to keep, making challenges to that thought that it's trying to go to. Okay. Does that make sense? And you have to have their own. And I would say are their own that work for you, and write them down. It's not that you're an addict in this case, but much like that, you need to have this ready. You need to have these coping words that help you ready to go. When you're in the middle of this, it's not the time to grab it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Gosh, you're inspiring.
I don't know about that,
but I'm taking this in. I hope you all are as well. Yes.
Yes, but it's just one way to change those neural connections that lead up to that trigger response, right? And I would say, and I know we're really close to out of time here, but a lot of times when we're in this, people fear mistakes. They fear what other people are thinking. A lot of the neural pathway work is, I'm positive I've got everyone else's thoughts on this. And one of the things that I often use is, I think the number is 70 to 80% of the time. Somebody will have to write in and tell me if I'm off. It's high, no matter what it is. We're thinking about ourselves. So if I'm really worried about what someone else is thinking, they're not thinking about me. And that is a sad, true fact, but you should just put that one in your pocket.
It's so true.
That those people aren't, they're actually thinking about themselves, or how you're perceiving them or whatever. So, people aren't really thinking about us as much as we believe that they are. And I am, more of a faith-based person. And I think one of the things that I remember, and it's important to remember, that there's a proverb that says death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat their fruits. And I think that's really important. Of course, I want to speak life over myself. I want to speak life over my families, and I definitely want to speak life over myself. So in this case, sometimes when I'm having all these not positive thoughts, I'm not speaking life over myself. So I need to remember that. I want to speak life. Right?
Beautiful.
So those are the things I would run at when I'm trying to work at the more cognitive cortex side of the brain.
Aw.
So questions or thoughts, and I'm sure I'm just run us out of time here.
Yes, exactly. We are. But my question to you is, unfortunately, it's not. How do we reach out to you? Because we only have 2 minutes left. So, yeah. How can someone work with you, and what states are we able to? Where around the world?
Well, so more importantly, it's not just reaching out to me, not reaching out to Diane, but, reaching out, to the Family Collective can get you directed if this is, part of what's going on with you. But please reach out to thefamilycollective.co, because there are a bunch of resources on there. Actually, I have an entire talk where I talk about fear, and I probably go through a lot of this that you can listen to. And there are a lot of resources on there that you can listen to. When you're struggling with this, you also probably are struggling in your relationships, because your stuff, interacts with the people around you. So we're just trying to help you with that as you're dealing with that. So thefamilycollective.co or info@thefamilycollective.co if you want to shoot us an email.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Diane. Always amazing. Thank you. I'm glad to have you here and enjoy your time off as well. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks again.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.